Hello, and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. Currently, I want to talk about the bombshell call between the head of this administration and Saudi Arabia. What we know so far is that a transcript is being demanded of a phone call of the head of this administration in his first term in the White House with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. The call reportedly dates to June 2019 after the murder of a journalist in the Saudi consulate in Turkey. A former National Security Council staffer, Eugene Vindman, says he reviewed the call and called it shocking, implying some quid pro quo or at least serious impropriety. The White House declined to release the transcript and dismissed Vindman's claims, calling him a serial liar. Media outlets and commentators say that given the context, the call could raise serious questions about the president's relationship with a foreign leader and whether national interest was compromised. Why this matters is because presidential dealings with foreign leaders are always subject to scrutiny under the Constitution foreign relations checks, the Congress's power to declare war, the treaty power, and etc. If the executive branch appears to act in its own interest or a foreign power's interest rather than the nation's, that raises issues of abuse of power, obstruction of oversight, and potentially impeachable misconduct. Specifically, if the call involved a quid pro quo, then it could bear similarities to earlier impeachment questions, though each case depends on very different facts. The fact that the call occurred in the shadow of a journalist's demise, reputation's risk, U.S. intelligence concluded MBS approved these actions, and the U.S. still welcomed him, reportedly shielding him from the congressional sanctions. Congress is asking for transparency. If the transcripts are harmful, the release could trigger hearings, subpoenas, even impeachment inquiries. Conversely, refusing to release can also fuel allegations and of cover-up. What could happen? Congress, especially the Senate and House committees on foreign relations, intelligence, and oversight, could demand the transcripts formally, subpoena the White House officials, and hold hearings. If the call reveals a corrupt or national interest compromising arrangement, then senators might break ranks and join a bipartisan accountability push. If evidence emerges of a willful concealment, obstruction of Congress, or the president using his office for private foreign gain, that could trigger impeachment proceedings in the House and a trial in the Senate. Even if impeachment doesn't succeed, the political damage could be serious. Erosion of support among moderate senators, public trust decline, and possible loss of seats in Congress. Now let's take a moment to look at the federal law issuing concerns of U.S. bombings or boat strikes in Venezuela. What we know so far is that the administration has carried out multiple strikes on vessels north of Venezuela, claiming they belong to the Venezuela gang, transporting narcotics or acting as narco-terrorists. Legal experts, including the New York City Bar Association's Rule of Law Task Force, have said that these strikes might be unlawful under U.S. and international law because they appear to be summary executions of civilians carried out without congressional authorization or proper process. For example, one strike reportedly unalived 11 people aboard a vessel in the Caribbean. The administration said the boat carried illegal narcotics, but experts say no imminent threat, no formal war status, no congressional authorization, making the strike legally dubious. After another commentary of the states that if the strikes continue without oversight, they pose a risk of being considered extrajudicial killings and could open legal liability for service members and the White House. Congress has begun to raise war power concerns that under the War Powers Resolution of 1973, the president must end hostilities after 60 days unless Congress authorizes. Why this matters? The Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war. That's Article 1. And the president's role of commander-in-chief is Article 2. If the executive uses military force unilaterally without statutory or of treaty authorization, that raises serious separation of powers concerns. It's a violation of international law, can damage U.S. credibility, open the U.S. to foreign law, suits and sanguish, and degrade alliances. If server members follow unlawful orders, the legal exposures includes criminal liability. The administration may also be politically vulnerable for who authorized this. And was it done with legitimate national scrutiny reasons or political gain? Because the strikes involve foreign vessels, ambiguous jurisdiction, and possible violations of laws that protect due process and prohibit these type of actions, which is a legal risk and is elevated. What could happen? Well, the Congress could hold hearings, issue subpoenas for classified documents explaining a legal basis, refusal of which could be treated as obstruction. Significant number of senators could support resolutions limiting the president's war powers of demanding justification that may withhold budget authority or attach oversight conditions to military defense funding. The administration could face lawsuits, though they may be difficult given difference to the executive in foreign relations and national security issues, but reputational harm and political costs could be very real. If the Senate aligns more against the administration's actions, there could also be restrictions based on future strikes, possibly legislative efforts to require congressional authorization or judicial review. Potential political and constitutional consequences could be such as impeachment or removal risk, a Senate budget leverage, legislated to limit executive power, loss of political capital or party cohesion, criminal or civil liability, electoral implication. How these two strands of information I've just supplied can risk for the information? Well, the call with the Saudi Arabia suggests potential misuse of presidential power in foreign relations. The Venezuelan strikes suggest potential misuse of military power wars, both trace to the same root, executive acting without meaningful checks or transparency. If Congress sees a pattern, will they cut the military authorization? Will have secret calls with foreign powers? Will they do military strikes without oversight? Then political system could respond with broad accountability efforts rather than isolated cases. At this point, the administration's vulnerability isn't just one scandal outside of the Epstein, but in being seen as a pattern of disregarding constitutional limits. That raises the stakes. Instead of one hearing, you could get multiple interlocking investigations, foreign relations, war powers, oversight. The presence of both foreign call scandal and the Venezuela bombing questions means multiple committee jurisdictions, foreign relations, armed services, judiciary. It could be massive. That raises the likelihood of Senate action, even if enough senators feel they must respond to preserve the institutional integrity. Today's sources come from Reuters. Democrat demands release of shocking Trump Saudi call. The New Republic demands transcripts of Trump MBS call. The Financial Post, Trump's been bombing boats in the Caribbean. New York City Bar Association, unlawful attacks on Venezuelan vessels. Reuters, was the deadly U.S. attack on the Venezuela vessel legal? Just scrutiny. U.S. service members exposed to criminal liability. Responsible statecraft, Senate effort to rein in Trump war on narco-terrorist affairs. Al Jazeera updates, Trump said he will send the National Guard to hellhole Chicago. TheGuardian.com, White House vows to appeal after judge sides with Harvard and reverse billions of Trump cuts. India Times, Trump Epstein figures now, MAGA calls forgery experts to see mass deportation, analyze the Trump administration attacks on immigrants. GNS.org, Trump sets out to be a NATO with bombshell call to drop all charges. Thank you for listening. Until next time, bye bye for now.